Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I just wanted to make a quick video talking a little bit about the new features that we saw from the recent trailer for Pokemon Sun and Moon, and why I think it means a lot for both competitive play and VGC specifically. So a quick rundown and some history before we get started on the new features. Basically, Pokemon has shown that they're pretty dedicated towards improving competitive play. In Gen 5 to Gen 6, we saw a lot of power nerfs to strong moves like Draco Meteor. We also saw the gems being removed, and we also saw some really cool small mechanics that made a big difference in the future of competitive play. So for example, no longer can you Thunder Wave electric type Pokemon, no longer can you use Spore on grass type Pokemon. Small stuff here and there that made team building more accessible. So I thought those were some really great changes, but unfortunately the addition of some really strong Mega Evolutions like Kangaskhan, and addition, 2016 obviously there's just such a big power creep with all these Pokemon like Primal Kyogre, Groudon, Xerneas kind of regress the changes that they made. So that's why I say, if VGC 2017 has a good rule set and Pokemon takes care a little bit of some small things that I'd want to see changed, I'll probably make a video about this in the future, but for example, nerfing paralysis maybe, or just, improving stuff like, just getting rid of Moody plus Dark Void as a combination on Smeargle, small stuff like that, that makes, games just a lot more RNG reliant. Like, I think Pokemon should be a game that, has RNG obviously as a factor, but there's some things that are just not necessary, and sometimes even make the game ridiculous. Rock Slide 30% chance, Flinch being another one. But what I'm trying to get at is that Pokemon is clearly showing that they're actually paying attention to the competitive scene, and Gen 5 to Gen 6 was good. We went backwards in some ways, especially with the VGC 16 rule set, but 2017 and basically Gen 7, there's so much potential. So I want to talk a little bit about the two features we saw and why I think it's super exciting that Pokemon's implementing this. So the first is basically the ability to hold both your own online and in real life competitions. So obviously the Pokemon Global Link's really popular. It's Battle Spot, and they hold their competitions. You can play games. There's both a ranked and a non-ranked ladder. It's always been a pretty big feature the last couple of years, and we've seen more online competitions in the last 2 years. But basically Pokemon's like, hey, now we want you to basically create your own tournaments, and this is so cool. Not only for VGC players, but for any competitive Pokemon players or even casual players. Now you can create your own rule set, and you don't have to worry about basically are people using the right Pokemon, is their team legal for this tournament, because now the game should do it for you once you set this rule set. So it takes a lot of stress off tournament organizers, and I think this will make online play a little bit cooler, especially for big circuits. Nugget Bridge holds all these online practice Wi-Fi tournaments, and I think this could definitely help make it even smoother for tournament organizers. But I think the cooler thing is basically being able to do this in person. So you see here, live competitions allow you to host a competition where you gather together with friends and others in the same space. The digital player ID that contains the regulations will be created as a QR code, and by scanning in that QR code, participants will be able to battle according to the competition's regulations. So let me talk about why this is such a big deal for competitive Pokemon, and more specifically VGC. VGC historically has not had many grassroots tournaments. Compared to all the competitive video games, esports, whatever you want to call them, we are very, very built off of what the Pokemon Company International holds. They hold nationals and worlds. They get people to run regionals and local premier challenges. It's basically all under the Pokemon Company's kind of jurisdiction. And that's really great. We're super fortunate to have a company that's putting more effort into improving the circuit, and one that we don't have to worry about organizing our own events, and that's really great. But grassroots is a really big deal, I think, and especially local scenes. We haven't seen too many big grassroots competitive VGC tournaments. A few years ago, we had Apex, which was the Super Smash Bros. Tournament, and we would have a VGC competition tied into there. But the reason why grassroots are hard for VGC specifically is because there's so much pressure and stress on tournament organizers. Not only do you have to organize the event, not only do you have to, put tournament pairings out, get everything together, and make sure the event's running smoothly, you also have to check everyone's team, make sure it's legal. There's so many players, or so many times where players just choose the wrong rule set, and then you have to deal with, disqualifications and stuff like that. Now, with the live competition feature, tournament organizers don't have to stress about any of this anymore. They can focus a little bit more on running the event, and because they'll be able to just choose a rule set and allow everyone to download it, they just really don't have to worry as much, I guess, as they really used to. This is a feature, obviously, if you have ever been to a American regional, some of the European regionals, and nationals, you'll know that, Pokemon basically implements the rule set into your game, and then now for the rest of the tournament, you know that the player is going to stick with this team. If they, and leave the tournament, then they can't re-enter, so you don't have to worry about players changing their teams mid-tournament, stuff like that. So, We saw that obviously for the higher level of competitions, but now Pokemon's allowing local tournament organizers to use that, and I think that's just so helpful, whether you're a VGC player or not. So I hope that we get to see some more non-VGC offline tournaments as well. But this change, super, super cool. Pokemon clearly showing, okay, we want to make it a little bit easier. We want players to enjoy Pokemon outside, outside of just online play, but also on online play, and we're going to make it easier for them. So huge props to Pokemon for implementing this. I think that's a big deal, and I really hope we get to see some more grassroots VGC events. The second feature is also really cool. I'm going to quickly jump into it here, and that's hyper training. So, hyper training is basically, from what I can tell from what the Pokemon Sun and Moon website says, it's basically the ability to maximize your Pokemon's individual values when you're at level 100. So, let me talk about why I think this is a big deal, why I don't think it's, necessarily the largest, it'll have the largest of impacts, why I think it's, the next step that, Pokemon's taking, and why it's such a smart decision. So, obviously, in the newer generation, it was much easier to breed Pokemon, and I thought that was a phenomenal change that Pokemon made. I know when I was grinding for VGC 14, I bred my teams in Pokemon, and it was not, very difficult, and it was great. Everyone was breeding once again. That's why 2014 was actually one of the biggest years of VGC. We had some of the highest viewerships that year. I think when Sagejump played in the finals, combined viewership between all streams was around, 100,000 or so. And obviously, it was super hyped because of Pachirisu, but we even had a lot of players that are regionals. I believe one of the California regionals had like 512 players, which was a ridiculous amount. Regionals attendance this year has definitely been on the lower end. And one of the reasons why I think 2014 was such a big year for VGC, 2011 was also a really big year, was because first of all, it's a new game, and second of all, it's, now much easier to get your Pokemon in game. So now with Sun and Moon, it's easier than it's ever been, meaning that no longer do you have to worry so much about getting a team in game, you can spend more time practicing and training. So, I don't think hyper training is going to be absolutely necessary, especially for Pokemon that you're breeding, because clearly you have to get these Pokemon to level 100. What I do think what hyper training will help for, and just quickly to summarize if you don't know what it's about, basically you get these things called bottle caps, and we have no idea really how difficult they'll be able to get. I really hope that it's more convenient. I don't want it to be something that you have to grind forever and forever for. But the reason why I think hyper training is really great is for two reasons. First of all, it allows you to hyper train parents that you want to breed with. For example, even if you have a really bad Ditto, if you just get a Ditto in game and you can hyper train all its IVs up to 31, then suddenly it's much easier to breed Pokemon because Ditto is the universal parent, obviously. And if they keep the breeding mechanics the same, maybe they make it even better, then even if you have another Pokemon that doesn't have the best IVs, Ditto will just be able to carry down a lot, and through breeding multiple times again, even if you have a bad parent with Ditto, you'll eventually get a flawless Pokemon. So, this makes it easier just for players who maybe are not able to get Dittos, or maybe just players who have Pokemon that are near perfect, but, just want that extra step. The second biggest deal is definitely legendary Pokemon. So, for example, I think one of the reasons why 2016 is a little bit more inaccessible to people, especially newer players, is because you don't know how to soft reset, you don't know the resources out there, maybe you don't have the friends to help you trade Pokemon with. That makes things more difficult, right? I think it was nice that Pokemon made it so that all legendaries now have 3 guaranteed 31 IVs, but that still means you need 2 others to be 31s, and the odds of that aren't the highest. Obviously, it's doable, I've done it. I know a lot of other top players have soft reset for perfect legendaries, but it takes a lot of time, and now hyper training basically makes it a lot easier for legendary Pokemon specifically. Now, I think Sun and Moon, like I said, I speculated earlier, I think it's going to be Sun and Moon Pokedex only, and I expect that there won't be many legendary Pokemon even legal. 2016 obviously revolves around legendary Pokemon, which is why it's been more difficult, but let's take a look at, the 2 last formats that when New Game came out. For example, or New Generation, I should say. So, back in 2011, right, Tornadus, Terrakion, and Thundurus were all incredibly popular. And then in 2014, it was only really Zapdos. So in those years, there were only a couple legendary Pokemon. And obviously, it was like if you focused on getting a good speed IV, everything else, if it was 29, 28 to 31, like it was fine. But now it's like, okay, if there are any legendary Pokemon allowed in VGC 17, now I can hyper train them. And chances are, I'm not going to need to hyper train too many Pokemon. And since breeding mechanics, have been improved significantly now, you should be able to breed everything, especially because now you'll be able to get some parents really high up too with hyper training. So, this isn't an incredibly big deal, right? Because you have to get them to level 100, and that still takes a while. You know, you can grind through Blissey bases in Oris. You can obviously get rare candies if you've played a lot of online play and you have the points to redeem them in. But all in all, I think hyper training is a big deal because it simplifies basically the last Pokemon that used to be kind of hard to train up fully. So now, you know, breeding is accessible. Hyper training makes it so that the other Pokemon that used to be hard to train up can get max IVs, and I think that's super great. So I have big expectations for VGC 17, honestly. The Pokemon Company has shown that they're really dedicated towards improving competitive VGC specifically, as we've seen on the streams, you know, at US Nationals and all the European streams. So it's like, okay, now we have a lot of cool in-game things that are going to help competitive play too. I really hope that we just get a balanced rule set, and let Pokemon, you know, make some of the similar changes they did last time, where it's like, okay, this move or this mechanic might be a little bit too broken or too RNG related, let's tone it down a little bit. So I'm praying for stuff like Rock Slide and Paralysis to be nerfed a little bit, but we'll just have to see. I'll probably make a future video on that and some new Sun and Moon information when it comes out. But yeah, this has been me rambling on for about 11 minutes or so, but I'm really excited. I think these changes indicate that Pokemon is clearly taking a step in the right direction, and I'm very, very just eager for the future, especially because I want VGC to grow this year. We had a lot of ups, we also had a lot of downs, and I think 2017 is going to be the biggest year. So with these changes and everything, you know, let's just hope we get a good rule set. We're going to keep on obviously seeing new VGC and Sun and Moon information, and I'll be making videos as we go along for those as well. But let me know your thoughts on the new features, on the new Pokemon, on the new trailers, all the Sun and Moon information in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like or give me any feedback if possible. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, peace.